Why has the controversy around a mayor's election in Chandigarh now become a national controversy? I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo story. The images that have come out of Punjab in the last 24 hours have created a national political storm. The Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress, that had for the first time in a test of the India alliance's efficacy fielded a joint candidate, have cried foul. They say that the BJP and the BJP linked presiding officer have basically stolen the election. This controversy started after all of the chaos was caught on camera. The presiding officer, Mr. Anil Masih, basically invalidated 8 votes of the opposition. The opposition, otherwise arithmetically, between the AAP and the Congress, at least before the election, seemed to enjoy the majority. But when the vote took place, it was the BJP candidate who won because of the 8 cancelled votes. The presiding officer has said that the opposition members tried to disrupt the poll process and were snatching ballot papers. The Congress and the AAP came together to say that this is a sign of things to come. This is a stolen election. The case is now in the High Court. The Aam Aadmi Party is also moving the Supreme Court. The High Court has not immediately put any stay on the result, though it has issued notices for responses within the next 3 weeks. Now, Arvind Kejriwal, who has in fact received a fresh summons from the Enforcement Directorate in the middle of all of this, likened what had happened in Chandigarh to Donald Trump. Remember, the former American president and his supporters refused to, on January 6th, several years ago, accept the results of the American polls, storming the Capitol Hill. The Aam Aadmi Party has made an allegation that what has happened in Chandigarh is going to repeat itself on the national scene. Let's introduce our guest today as we look at the larger implications, and there are many, because remember, this was also the first time that there was a joint India Alliance candidate against the BJP. Chandrasuta Dogra is with us. She's a journalist who has also been an Aam Aadmi Party member. Thank you for joining us. Also joining us from the BJP is its leader and spokesperson, Dr. Dharinder Tayal. Also joining us is Shubhrashta. Shubhrashta is a political analyst, sometimes quite supportive of the government, but often known to not pull her punches when an issue really leaps out at her. Will this be one? We'll find out. And from the Aam Aadmi Party, we are joined by Dr. Nimmi Rastogi. Now, we've all seen the pictures, Dr. Tayal. I'll start with you. The fact that 8 votes are cancelled, अगर आप सिर्फ numerical strength देखें, the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress, even counting for the Akali cross voting, have more votes. So how has the BJP won? Just by pure arithmetic, even if none of us had seen the video, how has the BJP won?
No, so that is, I think, quite simple. I think Nadda ji has already said that in the case of the India Alliance, neither their arithmetic nor their chemistry is working. So when the chemistry didn't work, the maths didn't work. So I'll tell you now, the question that you have raised, that I mean, at the back end between the lines, that how is it that 8 votes got, invalidated?
Yeah.
Because that is the arithmetic. Otherwise, they would have won. And the question that has been raised by Aam Aadmi Party, ऐसा थोड़ी होता है कि 8 votes invalid हो जाएं. The people are not, so naive that this should happen. I think that is primarily the question to my mind that you are asking me. Am I right?
I'm basically saying that if those 8 votes had not been cancelled, your candidate would not have won. And the opposition's allegation is that the presiding officer who cancelled the 8 votes is a member of the Chandigarh BJP minority cell. So he's not a neutral official.
So let's go by the act first. I think it's important that the viewers should know that all this gibberish that is being talked about now, one, the act says that the presiding officer shall be one from among the councillors. So he is one among the councillors. So, and unless you are going to have some divine help that, it is pure, very pure, unaligned person of some kind. So here is a person who's a nominated person. He is a councillor. And the second requirement in the act is that the person who's going to be the presiding officer should not be contesting the election. Mr. Masih was not contesting the election. That is one. Two, he was already there when they went to the court the first time. The court said, okay, Mr. Masih will continue. They were well within their rights to say, no, we don't want this. So to come back today and forever, hold up a victim card, have it ready behind you. The moment something will happen, we'll raise a victim card. So it was all there. I mean, why are you coming out with it today and saying, why was Mr. Masih? Were you not aware of who Mr. Masih was? He was very much a part of the corporation with you for so long. So what are you
Yeah.
talking about? So
So
I mean,
you're saying only the defeat has made the opposition question the terms. The terms were clear to all. The presiding officer is always one among the councillors, so he or she will have a political link.
absolutely.
Okay, let's take that to Dr. Rastogi. Dr. Rastogi, the point is that the High Court has declined to put a stay. We believe your party is now approaching the Supreme Court, but it's a setback for you that the High Court did not immediately stay it. Dr. Tayal has a point. It's not that you've just woken up and discovered that the presiding officer is linked to the BJP. You obviously miscalculated what might happen. Do go ahead and respond. What's at stake here?
So, Barkha, there is an order even in a random situation. You know, everything doesn't happen just like so haywire. So, what my question is that if we knew who Mr. Messi is, like he's a member, he's a councillor, we didn't know to what extent the moral depravity will affect him, so that he will invalidate only the votes of Aam Aadmi Party and Congress. I mean, this is too much of a coincidence. Another thing is that why were we not made to examine those rejected votes? Why were the press kept at a bay? Why were the two election agents not allowed to come? And how come the councillors are educated? They're not kids. They are not blind. They know the procedure. It's not rocket science. How can only the Aam Aadmi Party and Congress councillors have kind of made silly mistakes and their paper is rejected? I mean, this is too much of a randomness that bothers my mind. It is a clear case of daylight robbery. You say whatever it is, our moral compass has kind of been shifted to that extent that our appetite is increased. We are saying it's okay. We are not crying foul. The entire nation is crying foul because it is a prototype of what is going to come in next 6 months.
So let me take this to Shubhrashta actually. The fact is that a mayor's election, Shubhrashta, rarely gets noticed. But the opposition is making the argument, as you just heard the AAP leader say, this is daylight robbery and our moral compass has shifted. And indeed, looking at the video, there does seem to be a kind of contentious dimension to the fact that 8 votes get cancelled. If anything, it actually makes you long for the electronic voting machine where no vote can actually be invalidated. And that's something for the opposition to think about that is often challenged the neutrality of the EVMs. When you look at what's happening in Punjab, one thing I want to ask you is what many people are saying is look at this all-powerful BJP, set and projected and forecast to be hitting a landslide victory in 2024. Why does it have to sort of so assertively, contentiously, with controversy attached to it, with people saying daylight robbery, get involved in this manner in a mayor's election?
Barkha, let me make it very clear. I don't think any political party is out there to humor the allegations of the opposition. The opposition may continue to call BJP whatever they want to. They may call them bloodhounds or whatever they want to. I don't think BJP is under any obligation to listen to any moral lecture, especially from Aam Aadmi Party. That's the last person, I think, that's the last party that one should be really taking moral lessons from. Now, what happened in Chandigarh? And your question you're asking is why has it made to the national, narrative? I think kudos to Aam Aadmi Party and Congress. I think despite being in opposition, they have really managed to make this a national issue. The question, the rants that they are, showing in press conferences and on social media and on media channels are rants that they should ask themselves. The question that Miss Rastogi, for example, that she asked, that how come only AAP and Congress members make mistakes? Well, go and ask them. Go and ask those 8 members. Nobody's asking you not to. These are comments for internal discussion. Why is it even making to the national mainstream? Now, there is another allegation being made. Press was kept at bay. Barkha, let me ask you, was Mojo story there and were you asked not to sort of cover it? Were you
No, I mean,
asked not?
it's the video that a journalist from Punjab, Kuldeep Singh, first actually put on Twitter that led to this whole discussion.
So Barkha, then another allegation can come that gentleman from the press can have some link to the Aam Aadmi Party as well. Since we are making so many wild allegations and wild theories, then that theory can very well float around. Look, Barkha, we all understand that in a democratic setup like India, there will, not just India, anywhere for that matter, when systems are in place, there are procedural lapses. There are also places where you can tinker with procedures. But that's the reason why democracy exists, and that's the reason why democracy would survive also. Sometimes you have to sort of look the
What
other
do
way
you
and
what do
also
you
see.
what do you mean by tinker with procedure and look the other way? What do you mean by that?
No, for example, we all remember the famous CP Joshi case. He lost the election by one vote. Now we
Mhm.
all know how that could have happened. There is nothing left to imagination. We all know that if that one person would have gone out and voted, CP Joshi would have won. Now, if I were to say that the one person who did not vote was actually held hostage by the opposition to not vote, I mean, that very well can be a theory. This is where I'm talking about procedural lapses. This is where
Mm.
I'm talking about there will always be, what I'm trying to say is there will always be loopholes that the opposition or anybody in power can manipulate.
So
This
in
is
many
the
ways, you're saying that to be pious about what has happened is naive, because in so many other instances, whether it's people falling ill at the last moment, whether conversely it's people showing up in wheelchairs to vote, this is realpolitik, effectively.
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. Chandar, is it realpolitik? Is it the ruthlessness of a Darwinian world, survival of the fittest? Politicians do what they need to. All sides do what they need to. Mr. Kejriwal, the BJP argues, has tactically, for example, taken a position to not show up for the summons by the enforcement director. It's a political position he's taken. Nobody really believes that each time he was too busy to attend. Shubhrasta's argument is this is realpolitik. Deal with it.
Yes, certainly it is realpolitik, but at the same time, it's very undemocratic. So when we look, I mean, is it acceptable in a democracy like ours, which we claim is one of the most successful and one of the best democracies that we have in the world today, and to have these kind of things, which quite clearly show that our democracy somewhere or the other is getting eroded. Now that's one. The other thing I wanted to point out is. There is great dismay even amongst the Chandigarh residents at how this whole thing has unfolded, and people are really talking about people that the presiding officer should be suspended, or that the court should declare the election as null and void, etc. That's the line which the residents of Chandigarh are taking, and there is great anger on amongst them. Now, but the question which no one seems to be addressing is, who are these eight councillors, and is there not a question mark on them? What was the reason why their ballot was invalidated? Uh, yes, the presiding officer did not allow anyone to scrutinize their ballot, and nor did they make it public. What were their names? What was the reason why they were invalidated? All that is under a curtain. It's all opaque. Possibly, if there was some transparency and this had been shown or at least made public, then possibly all this may not have happened. But a certain amount of introspection needs to be done by the India Alliance to figure out why these eight ballot papers were invalidated. Because for the BJP now, when you say that what was so important about one mayor's election,
Yeah.
where the BJP is looking as if it's going to win the coming general election. It's looking so powerful and so strong. Now, I personally feel that this was the first election where the India Alliance was pitted against the BJP. The first time that this was happening, and as the BJP has won this election, they would probably tom it across the nation, saying that, see, we have defeated the India Alliance even in Chandigarh, one of the
Right.
most important cities. Whereas the people in the rest of the country won't know the nitty gritty of how
But
how
let's
this mayor got elected. You know,
let's pick up the last part of what you said. And before I go back to the two politicians, Shubhrashta, briefly, realpolitik is one thing, but to not follow the basic electoral rules is quite another thing. And in this case, the cancelled ballots, they were not allowed scrutiny. Right, they were not allowed to be
yes,
scrutinized. And so I
yes.
think that's the point, that when a presiding officer takes a decision, you have to at least give the opportunity to those candidates or their representatives to examine the rejection or the basis for the rejection. That is a violation of rules.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that fight should go on. And I think the opposition has already moved the courts, and they've approached the Supreme Court also for that matter. So let that let that process happen. My problem is with a general statement that one comes up with things like democracy in India is eroding. This one lapse sort of shows that India no longer is a democratic country. These are problems that I have with generalized statements. Which country in the world? Let me ask this question to Ma'am Dogra. Which country in the world, according to her, is a perfect democracy where no lapses happen? Where real politics is absolutely intellectually ethical and completely ethical on ground? I would really like to ask her.
Okay,
Because
I think
when intellectuals like her come on to give some such pronouncement, it shows really badly on the national narrative. It's not as if voters are fools in this country.
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
as if every election there is no collective conscience.
Okay,
Yeah,
Chandan,
but
can
but
you hold on?
Match a
but
couple
we
of
still have to
couple of
bring it
them.
out. We still have to
Yeah.
bring it out. We still have to point it out wherever there is a lapse. We do need to correct it. That doesn't mean that we accept all the wrongdoings, all the undemocratic little pinpricks which are happening in our democracy. That doesn't mean we let it just trample over us. We need to bring it out. We need to raise this point again and again so that we can become a better democracy. It's not.
Okay,
It's
I think that is.
as
I
if
think that is also.
yeah.
I think that's also a fair point. Shivrashtra saying don't make broad generalizations for the state of India. Chandan saying no, but when you see a violation, you have to call it out. Dr. Tyal, I will ask you the same question. Do you not think that when the ballots were rejected, the opposition needed the opportunity to scrutinize them?
Barkha, in this entire process, I'm very tempted to address you as Justice Barkha.
No. I have no illusions like television. I don't run a kangaroo court. I don't give certificates of guilt and innocence. I only ask, I hope, the relevant questions. But go ahead.
There are two pronouncements which you've given,
Yes.
which I was noting down.
Which
So
are?
one is that the basic rules were not followed.
It seems that
And
way. It seems that way looking at the
So
video.
let
Please
me
enlighten me if I'm wrong. Please enlighten me if I'm wrong.
Let me.
Yes.
So one is that the basic rules were not followed, and second, that it is very evident from the videos that the person is tampering. Now, these were two statements that have come from you.
No, I didn't make the second one. I didn't make the second
You
statement.
did. You did.
No, I didn't.
When you watch your own recording, you will find you did.
No, I said
Okay.
the opposition has alleged tampering. The opposition has alleged tampering. The presiding officer has said that there was chaos being created. He said there was a tick mark. It was invalid. The procedure was. He has also said that. He's also said niyam follow nahi hue. The only question I'm asking, and I'm asking it as a question with great respect.
I'm giving you the response.
Why not give a party, kisi bhi side ho, the chance to scrutinize?
No, absolutely. I'm giving you the response now exactly because based in Chandigarh, I'm privy exactly to what happened there. So, one, the presiding officer asked the agents to, if they wanted to, look at the ballots after he pronounced the result. Okay.
Right.
Now, this Mr. Dhingra, who was the Aam Aadmi Party agent, he did not get up to go. But what on the other hand happened is that a gentleman, a councillor by name of Mr. Munawwar and others, they pounced upon to snatch away and you can see this immediately at this moment also, you can see, to snatch away the ballots. Now, why would they want to snatch and run away with the ballots? Why would they do that? And destroy the ballots so that
that's a fair question.
So that the evidence gets destroyed of their wrongdoing. Number two, now I'll tell you the question being asked, another question that has been raised is that, I mean, are the people so naive that they have, 8 people have invalid votes? No, they're not. I said it right at the beginning. They're not. Now, let me give you the genesis of this. The genesis is that originally when there was something called an India Alliance, and it seemed to be there, that is when this alliance in Chandigarh was stitched up. The proposal from the Congress to Aam Aadmi Party was, we will have the MP and the deputy mayor. You have the mayor and the senior deputy mayor. Now that somehow did not go through. What happened was, okay, you have the mayor, we will have the senior deputy mayor and the deputy mayor. Now I'm there at the ground level. I know what has been going on and what the people are talking about. Huge insecurity in Congress that if Aam Aadmi Party gets the mayor, then our chances as the MP, they get diminished. And anyway, there is a huge rumor that Mrs. Chadda may be coming to Chandigarh to contest this. So huge insecurity in Congress. So what I'm saying is, this did not happen accidentally. This was deliberate. This was a diktat. They were told.
So you're saying it was a self-created chaos because there's internal rift within the alliance.
Yes, the chemistry didn't work. So, I mean, now they had no choice. They could not vote for AAP, and obviously they could not vote for BJP because it would have been out in the open immediately. Where did the BJP get these votes from? The other crucial question I want to ask, which will absolutely tear this whole thing apart. It happened. For a moment, let us accept that they were correct in saying that tampering happened. Why did you walk out of senior deputy mayor and deputy mayor? You should have contested those, proven to the world that we are one family, we are together in this.
Okay,
but no, you ran away.
Those are all.
You would really have been exposed. And the final point, which since yesterday they've been maintaining, hum kal court mein ja rahe hain, we'll show it in the court. Now, if it is so evident to everybody, including Justice Barkha, then why was it not so evident to the court? Why did the court not give any relief? The court would have given relief.
I hope you'll also call me Justice Barkha when I pick up 2 points of yours that I think are very, very good questions and fair questions. Let me take them to Dr. Nimir Rastogi. The BJP has 2 questions. One, the internal dynamics, chemistry chali nahi, the sense that there could be a superstar candidate running the contest in Chandigarh. Isko self-sabotage kar lo. Why were these candidates running away with the ballots? This chaos was deliberately created to cancel not each other. The Congress basically created the chaos so the AAP couldn't win. And we do know that the AAP is contesting, you've already declared, all of the seats alone. So, the India Alliance obviously doesn't extend all the way across the state. Dr. Rastogi.
Barkha, it is very easy to cover an irregularity in hindsight and concoct a superimposed story that suits their convenience. It is an actual figment of imagination of people sitting here. Nothing like that was there. We were together. We wanted to win. We wanted to have a mayor, deputy mayor. It's just that the primary issue has been brushed under these imagined stories. Show us the ballot papers that were invalidated. How difficult it is. Show us those papers. I mean, we will be happily conceding our defeat if we are convinced that despite the numbers.
He's saying he's saying the invalidated candidates were running away with the ballots. That's what Dr. Tyal is saying.
This is his interpretation. What about those the ink marks and the pen comments that the person is writing? How can you not take the cognizance of something being written on the paper by this person, the presiding officer, and later on kind of make another interpretation of something which is absolutely false? First, explain this. How come? Okay. I mean, even in probability, even in maths, the probability was very, very high for us to lose. I mean, this is absolutely an imaginary narrative that they are creating. No, we have been wronged, and we will continue to tell people that this is an absolute murder of democracy. And actually, it is showing BJP in a very poor light. They've done a great disservice because now they will be known by these petty thieving-like activities. It's like a billionaire stealing 100 rupees from a salaried person who's worked hard just because uski niyat theek nahi hai. So ab inka narrative, inki image aisi ban gayi hai. So I'm sorry to say that I'm disappointed by people as BJP.
I'm going to take last comments from Chandar and Shubhrashta in just a moment. Dr. Tyal, you were wanting to come in. It's like a billionaire stealing from a middle class or a lower middle class salaried person. The BJP being the billionaire here. Go ahead.
One thing very interesting is to get a moral lecture from Aam Aadmi Party. I don't know whether her objection is आप चिंदी चोरी क्यों कर रहे हैं? हमारी तरह आइए ना, हजारों करोड़ हमारी देखो गवर्नमेंट तिहाड़ से चलती है. Wow. I mean, moral lectures from Aam Aadmi Party is the thing. I mean, we're not going to ED, but anyway.
और जाइम्स आपकी जरिए आते हैं.
What is important, Barkha, here for your viewers to know so that they don't get the wrong
Yeah.
notion? The gentleman is signing the ballot paper, which is the
Yeah.
requirement of the act. So he's supposed to do that. It is not that he's on camera writing or marking the things. So let the viewers know this. As per the act, unless he signs the ballot is not valid. So he has to sign the ballot, which is what he's doing. Now, I do not
Show
know
that.
what more
Show
information.
us.
And if it is, like I said, if it is so evident, I mean, I'm sure the two-judge bench also knew. They could have seen it and they would have granted you relief. At least have faith in the
No.
courts. I mean,
Okay.
okay. Hang on. Let me bring in
Shubhrashna. Let me bring in Shubhrashna and Chandar, and then we can close. Shubhrashna, go ahead. Shubhrashna, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes. So, Barkha, I think I want to congratulate the India Alliance for raising this issue. I would also wish them all the best for the long journey ahead with respect to this controversy and the murder of democracy issue that they have with the current dispensation. I hope that they win all the battles, and I also hope that they are able to convince people at large regarding the narrative that they are trying to build. That's all I have to say. I don't have much to say on this, actually.
I think that's an interesting political point, Chandar. The point is that the AAP and the Congress are making the point that this is a stolen election. But people at large have to believe it in a manner that it reflects in their political assessment of how these elections are being conducted, right? Go ahead with the closing thought.
See, I'd like to just take you back to January 18th, because this whole election of the mayor has been surrounded with controversy right from that time. When it was postponed, when this very same presiding officer suddenly had a backache, was admitted to hospital and said that I cannot hold this election. So at that time also the India Alliance went to the High Court, and the High Court's observations were that this conduct is unreasonable, unjustified and arbitrary. And it issued instructions to the Chandigarh administration that please go ahead and hold this as soon as possible. And then I think there were various dates, 6th of February, and then eventually the High Court put its foot down and said, no, do it on 30th of Jan. So it took the High Court and it took the India Alliance to go to the High Court and do this because it was already surrounded by controversy. So on the 30th, when all this happened, in many ways the tone had been set for what was going to happen earlier. And as I said earlier in this discussion, that the Aam Aadmi Party and the Congress need to introspect and figure out who are these 8 people. Possibly, I mean, this whole thing does smack of some kind of unfair dealing inside, outside, where.
So you hang on. You made a very important point. 1 minute. You agree, therefore, with Dr. Tayal that this could be internal sabotage.
Absolutely, because it's very hard to believe that eight votes got invalidated, and the very fact that there was an attempt, I think, from both sides now it appears, to snatch the ballot papers and to make sure that nobody sees them. So apparently there is something over there which these people don't want the rest of the world to know, or the rest of Chandigarh at least to know what's happening.
So this is the point, Dr. Tayal, that you've been making. So I'll allow you a brief comment there, and Nimi and Shubhrashna, if they want to come in. Chandar, who is a critic of what's happened, still believes that the candidates should have been shown their papers. The rejected paper says, "Kuch to gadbad hai, dal mein kuch kala hai."
No, so I would only want to say that since yesterday, Mr. Kejriwal, Mr. Maan, Mr. Chadda, all of them were saying tomorrow when we go to the court. And incidentally, the viewers should know this is the same court which granted them relief. So unfortunately, today they cannot even say something against the judiciary because I'll not put it beyond them. But this is the same court which had granted them relief earlier. And they said tomorrow morning things will be crystal clear. So things are crystal clear. The court has not given any relief. So when the court has not given you relief, if it was so evident, that something wrong has happened, the court would have immediately stepped in and given relief. The court hasn't done that.
Absolutely, but this could now end up in the Supreme Court. We also have to see what the High Court does in 3 weeks. Dr. Rastogi, to Chandar's point that both things can be simultaneously true, the presiding officer should have given the right of scrutiny, but it could be internal sabotage. You need to look more closely at these 8 whose papers were cancelled.
Yeah, so our internal investigation is going on, and we are very, very sure that nothing of this has happened, because had it to happen, then they have been tempted with crores of rupees anyways in last 2 weeks. So if anybody had to abstain or kind of, defect from one portion to another. Operation Lotus was in full swing, and trust me, it was. So had it been a case like this, we would have known. But we were confident because our people were absolutely sure, and none of them have pressed, none of them written it in an invalid manner.
Okay, Shivrajta, the Supreme Court, I guess, will have the last word on it, but it's leading to a larger democracy debate, not for the first time. You're saying that's a self goal of a political slogan. I mean, you haven't used those words. I'm interpreting for you. Is that what you're arguing? In the meantime, by the way, there are at least 2 opposition chief ministers in the direct line of firing by the ED, Arvind Kejriwal himself and Hemant Soren. And we just have an update that a team of ED officials is at the residence of Hemant Soren. We have to wait and see what happens in that case. Go ahead, Shivrajta.
Yes, on the breaking news that's coming in Barkha, we all know the kind of leaders these 2 gentlemen have been. We all know the kind of corruption that has happened in Jharkhand. We all know the family that Mr. Hemant Soren comes from. So let's really not believe the narrative that the leaders want us to believe in. On the larger question of democracy, as I said, I really hope, I genuinely, sincerely, I don't know why it comes out as a sarcasm from my mouth. I genuinely hope the opposition is able to convince us that democracy is in danger. As of now, it does not look as if it's in danger at all. Because when we have assembly elections, there are states in which the opposition wins. Look at Telangana for that matter. It's another matter that Revanth Reddy comes from the quote-unquote illustrious line of ABVP leaders, but they won fair and square in Telangana. So I hope that the democracy debate is settled once and for all in 2024. I hope it does, and I hope the opposition is able to convince the electorate on whatever narrative they want to.
I just going to say on a lighter note that Bihar tells you that it's a little difficult to track who came from which ideology and which ideological background. But as we speak, 2 chief ministers in the firing line of the Enforcement Directorate, a fresh summons to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. Will he appear before the ED tomorrow? And the ED at Jharkhand Chief Minister Hemant Soren's house. Could he be arrested? All of this and more coming up next on the Mojo Story. Thank you in the meantime, Dr. Tayal, Shivrajta, Chandrasukha Dogra, and Dr. Rastogi, and to our audience. Thank you. See you soon. Mojo Story has always made a commitment to its viewers to go to where the story is. And as you can see here, we are at the epicenter of the Israel war on Gaza. We are right at the front line, about 1 mile from the Gaza Strip, as the Israeli military gets ready with its tanks and its gunners to begin its final frontal assault that will take troops into Gaza. As we said, we are not like other organizations. We believe in giving you all sides of the story objectively and as much as possible from the ground. And that's exactly what we're doing here, covering the biggest global story today from the epicenter of the war zone. So please, we need your support. Support us, become a Mojo member, subscribe to us, spread the word, and thank you for your support.